Pag di nagtigil ng katuturuyan, baka putulin ko ang titilyan.
Tumahimik po na kayo.
In our fight against communism.
Buhay ang NPA! Motherfucker! Alisin mo yan! Adik ka ba?
My God, I hate drugs.
Magandang gabi sa lahat. Hello to all our guests and viewers. I'm Mike Tan, wearing a different hat tonight. I'm not going to be the professor and all that. No? I'm just here to moderate the show and greeting you, in fact, in behalf of PhilDocs, or the Filipino Documentary Society. Welcome to DAANG Docu, the home of Philippine documentaries. Tonight's show will be cross-posted on Rappler, Cinema Rehiyon by the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, JCI, Ako Bakwit, and the University of the Philippines Film Institute. This is Reality Check, Dagat ang Pagitan. This plays on the theme of our being a group of islands. I don't know if you're aware, officially we're no longer 7,107. It's now 7,641. And it's often said that because we are an archipelago, we tend to be insular kasi yan nga, dagat ang pagitan, we are separated by the sea. We also hear often that we are very regionalistic, that we are alliances and our loyalties are to people who speak the same language. We hope, of course, to show tonight that maybe there are alternatives and film could be one of those mediums or media to show the diversity. Of course, the question that will come up is, does regional cinema also reflect a certain insularity, or are we building bridges? We will have a great panel of guests who I'll introduce later to talk about all these issues and whether we are moving towards not just a national cinema, but a national culture. So tonight, let's honor and rediscover regional film cultures to better appreciate the many dimensions of being Filipino. You can watch our Daang docu-films under the locality section, streaming now till next Thursday, October 21. Lahat ito ay libre.
Sobra-sobra ba kuno isda? Kaya damo kuno isda nga. Bisang kuno didampang-pang na. Kung ano nala nirat-ira planggana, makakadako kuno rin isda. Yan ira pag-interpret, at to kuno nga kada mo nga isda, bagaliwatin sugar ito kada mo nga taot mawawara.
Sa mo yung Panicupan ang ikaduha nga nadeklara nga space for peace. Pero diriya ang Christian Muslim diriya pa man ilang relasyon diri, di ba?
Kung gibutan nga dito din akong gi-record, i-play na ako habang nagasayaw-sayaw sila. Something mga
Mo ni among daan nga balay. Diri mi nagpuyo ang akong pamilya. Diri po na ako gibuhat ang among sinihan para sa akong mga kababayan. Ang akong mga magulang ang akong inspirasyon sa paghimo sa sinihan.
Yung mata niya, yung hininga niya, naalala ko pa lahat.
Good morning,
buhay. Kung gusto mong mag-aral, anak ko, mag-aral ka, sabi niya. Nanay ko po yung nagbigay sa akin ng lakas ng loob.
Ganun pa sa mga karaan, di ka man matao sa dagat, dagat na kita kutog. Amo na mga ng atong ikonan, silbi kabilin sa atong mga ginikanan.
Kung oras mo, oras mo na.
Pag ikaw ay paalis na, mas masakit ang umaalis kaysa iniwanan.
Welcome back to DAANG Docu Reality Check, Dagat ang Pagitan. With us tonight are those who can give more texture and flavor to our national storytelling. I'm going to introduce our guests. First, we have Teddy Ko, a cultural worker, film archivist, and curator, co-founder of Cinema Rehiyon. He's with us here from Quezon City. Gandang gabi, Teddy. Next, we have Tito Valiente, cultural worker, film archivist, and curator. A veteran film critic, member of Manunuri ng Pelikulang Pilipino, a public anthropologist, and educator. He joins us from Naga. Tito?
Magandang gabi. Maulan dito pero magandang gabi.
Maulan. Okay. Next is Keith Deligro, the festival director of Binisaya. But he's not in the Visayas, he's in Tikling, Taytay. Keith? Bati?
Hello. Hi.
Hello. Okay. Next is Jay Rosas, a festival programmer, film critic, and filmmaker. One of his films, Budots, the Craze, is streaming now until Thursday. He joins us from Davao. Jay?
Hello, mayang gabi. Hello, mayang gabi from Davao sa mga viewers natin.
Ayong gabi din. And then we have Bagane Fiola also joining us from Davao, festival programmer and filmmaker. We're featuring also one of his films, but Panicupan is streaming until Thursday.
Here is Dr. Mike. Mayang gabi from Davao.
Okay. So feel free to join the discussion. You can post your questions and comments on our DAANG Docu social media pages. Okay, I have a script here that says flash handles. Let's move into the conversation. Kwentuhan tayo. Tonight we actually have a lot of people from the South. Mga Bisaya nga. And we're lucky, of course, that we have two of the filmmakers, those whose films are being shown for the week. And I wanted to start off nga with Bagane, yung film niya ay Panicupan, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And before we started, I was asking Bagane about where he comes from. He was born in Cagayan de Oro. Lumaki ba sa Pikit, North Cotabato?
No, half of my childhood was spent in Lang, Cotabato, which is also North Cotabato.
Okay. Because the film is based in Pikit, right? North Cotabato. So ang tanong kasi dito, in discussing regional culture and regional productions, the question that comes up minsan is, ano ang pananaw natin? Are you telling your story as an insider or are you telling it from the outside? And I'm curious nga because yung setting ng pelikula mo is still North Cotabato. Do you consider yourself an insider, an outsider? At anong motive mo dito? No? I mean, why did you pick that particular place? No? I know, of course, that the overall theme is people living in peace, no, together.
First, I'd like to mention that Panicupan was part of the program, the Forum What was that again, Jay? Can you?
Forum ZFD.
Forum CFD, I'm sorry. As part of the Forum CFD, together with other filmmakers from the Mindanao. And it's also important to mention that we were 3 of us filmmakers who are also from North Cotabato. I'd like to mention Kit Bacoco and Ralph Eluspa. They are from Pikit. Ralph is from Pikit, and Kit is from Pikawayan, and I'm from La. The common thing to us is that we are from North Cotabato. So I might be an insider for some reason for other perspective, but at the same time I'd like to say that I am also looking from inside. Since this is a work of the common from North Cotabato.
Okay. Kasi ang lumitaw dito, tatlo ang ethnicities dito, no? You have try to remember now, no? May Magindanaon, right? May Manobo. And tapos may what we would call Bisaya, no?
Bisaya.
Yeah,
meron ding Ilonggo.
And well, we could use the religion nga, may Christians, may Muslims, at saka may IP nga, no? And a lot is said in Mindanao these days about tripartite, the 3 peoples living together. No? And I think that's what's so fascinating about the film. Ang ganda ng isang dito where one of the farmers said, kung magyera ulit, they will tell people, bawal ang digmaan dito. No? That was so powerful. No? And I think the river was such a good setting also. Ang ganda na yan ang pinili mo. Ang pangalan ba ng ilog ay Panicupan ba?
Actually, it's a place, it's a barangay or a village. Seven villages. The first was the Nalapaan, became the Space for Peace and Children in 2002. After the all-out war na Iraq. But I think it's important also to say that this is an initiative of the community leaders themselves, not by the MILF or the government, but the community. Maraming magagandang stories na pwedeng ma-share behind the making of this film. Isang quick lang, gusto kong i-share na isang babae na bigla in the middle of a war between the government and MILF, umigaw lang siya ng stop, dadaan lang ako, then both the armed group stop, and then yun. So doon nila nakita na if they work together, they can create a space for themselves, for peace.
So may balak ka bang mag-sequel or the story behind, may backstory ba na dito?
Actually, when we edited the Panicupan, we were limited to a short film, but what we captured really was a lot of footages nasa hard drive. So siguro someday pag may chance, baka pwede siyang balikan at edit into more expanded version.
At work in progress nga, no? Parang regional cinema din at parang national cinema natin, no? Let's shift to the other filmmaker, no, whose film is being featured this week, no? Si Jay Rosas, yung Budots, the Craze, no? Ang Budots ay naging bahagi na rin ng wika natin, no? People, whether you're in Manila or Davao, alam nila kung anong Budots nga, no? Can I ask you naman, would you say Budots is na-appropriate na ba nationally itong Budots, or do you think it is still distinctly Davao? At buhay pa ba ang Budots? Curious din ako.
Yeah. Yung Budots kasi started in Davao, I think mga 10 years ago. So if we look at it now, hindi na siya siguro mako-consider as a kind of novelty because yun, mainstream na siya. And yun nga, nagiging expression na din siya, no? It's not just the music and the dance, but it's also like a way of expressing oneself, no? And I think na mainstream siya sa national attention through television by way of Ruben Gonzaga, who is from Davao and who joined Pinoy Big Brother. And I think doon nanalo siya eventually, and I think doon nag-start yung consciousness ng outside of Davao kung ano yung Budots or yung existence ng Budots. But I think it's still very culturally specific to Davao. I mean, when you say Budots, I mean parang Davao pa rin yung attachment niya. But mga friends din ako from Manila na say na naririnig na nga nila yung Budots sa jeep, no? And yun nga, as what has been shown sa documentary, it has been appropriated sa TV shows, no? It has been used even in political campaigns.
Right.
So,
Si Revilla nga, no? At parang may resentment din si yung sinong lead character mo, yung
si DJ Lam.
Oo, yung nagbe-mix ng music na
Yeah.
Dagat.
Yeah, that's right. Interestingly, when he called out actually Bong Revilla sa post niya, but that was, I think, na-show na siya sa Gawad CCP, and then, yun nga, parang he posted something about, please give naman credits, no, even just credits, because, yun nga, nagpapanala sa'yo yung Budots, but yan. But he took it down, actually, the post, curiously. But then recently lang, parang last month, kasi may nag-post something about Revilla using Budots nga to win to gain votes, no? So yun, he posted again something naman in relation to that, calling out nga Revilla and giving credits to Budots.
What also, kung balikan natin yung nagmi-mix nga ng music, no? I think a side story that comes out, and we're talking about regional cultures also, na-amaze ako dito na yung may internet cafe ba siya?
Oh, actually yun yung hanap buhay niya. He owns yung parang Pisonet. Kasi yun yung parang accessible sa mga urban poor na internet access. So may internet cafe siya, and then yun nga, as what has been said in the docu, dahil nakatambay lang siya sa internet cafe, and he's also like choreographer siya, dancer siya. So parang it came out naturally sa kanya yung pagmi-mix ng music.
And which he does in one of his computers na nga, no? At ang naisip ko rin, ibang skill din yan, and it's something that we should be looking at. Ang daming nangyayari kasi sa mga internet cafes, especially in Davao, no? We know that hindi lang mga batang pumupunta, maraming dito, mga naghanap ng dates, mga middle-aged women who find boyfriends there, no? Waiting to be converted into another docu in here, no? So the others are all filmmakers, obviously. I don't know who to pick on next. No? Baka pwede si Keith. Pwede bang paliwanag ng konti kung itong Binisaya na project ninyo?
Hello?
Yeah.
Ang
Keith.
Binisaya ay nag-start siya noong 2009 as parang pop-up screening kahit saan. Tapos naging film festival siya noong 2011, and recently lang itong 2020, ito na yung 10th edition namin ng festival. Kakatapos lang siya last Saturday. And ang finale namin na performance ay si DJ Love. Ayun, Binisaya. Ang centerpiece namin ay mga Bisaya na films. So yun yung china-champion namin.
Which reminds me na I'm sure maraming nakakaalam naman dito, no, pero talagang may history naman ang Cebuano films, no. According to Nick De Ocampo, 1920s pa ang first Cebuano film, no. Pero medyo nawala. At tingin mo bakit will the docus and the indies bring back Cebuano film? Film as in singular ang gamit ko dito na cinema pala, Cebuano cinema.
I think nandito na siya kasi yung eksena namin parang more than 10 years na siyang nangyayari. Madami-dami na din mga lumabas na mga short films, even feature films. Oo. Although yung mga feature films namin ay usually funded by Manila festivals. Ayun, tsaka siguro nandito na siya. Bumalik na siya. Pero ang interesting dito nung ginawa namin itong eksena namin, parang wala kaming idea na may history of cinema ang Cebu. Nalaman na lang namin yung history na yon habang ginagawa na namin yung mga ginagawa namin.
So, medyo bata pa kasi, no? Kaya hindi mo na naabutan.
Oo.
Medyo nawala, no?
Although ang inspiration namin doon sa yung pop-up screenings namin, personally, nung bata ko, naka-experience ako ng yung mga traveling na yung siniset up sa plaza ng mga nagpapalabas ng mga FPJ. So ayun, yun yung para sa akin yun yung pinaka-inspiration na nung ginagawa namin yung mga pop-up screenings namin sa kung saan-saan man. Sa beach, sa mga basketball court, ganun. Ayun.
Naisip ko tuloy yung isang lumabas din na kasama ba dito ang pagbabalik ng Between, yung isang pelikula din ni Sherbian Dacalanyo, isang umuwi sa Agusan del Norte at ang negosyo niya ay I don't think we can call it pop-up pero yung sa bahay lang niya nagpapalabas ng DVD.
Maraming ganun sa nung lumaki ako, yung mga Betamax na yung mga bootleg na mga tapes tapos mubayad ka ng 2 pesos, ganun, 1 peso.
Yeah. Oo.
Pero who knows
na okay. Pero who knows din yung may mga scenes dito na na-capture yung mga bata, no? Ibang mundo kasi para sa kanila, no? And who knows, there might be a filmmaker that might come out of their ranks someday. Itong mga galing nga sa kanayunan nga. No? Yung mga pelikula ninyo ay may subtitles ba? Kasi yan nga ang wika, no? More than 150 languages tayo, hindi pa bilang mga dialects, no? So kung Cebuano nga, may subtitles ba para sa mga Tagalogs, para sa mga Ilocano? Meron naman.
Laging meron. Saka parang ano din siya sa amin Hindi lang sa Cebu, pati din siguro sa Davao. Parang parang additional, parang learning, parang added skill yung yung pagta-translate ng mga nuance siguro into subtitles. Most of the time mahirap i-translate yung mga very things. So medyo kailangan ng certain level of attention and siguro experience, ganun. Familiarity.
So that's the irony of it all, na lahat tayo Pilipino pero kailangan pa rin ng translations, no? At minsan ang translations ay traidor din ang translations, no? Kung hindi ma-capture ang kahulugan niya, no? But it's still worth trying, no? Sa UP nga, sa Department of Filipino, isang napaka-popular na GE course ay Suroy-Suroy sa Wika at Panitikan. At ang na-feature ay panitikan nga from all over the Philippines. Naisip ko baka kailangan lapitan natin na suri-suri sa mga pelikula naman, na iba't ibang rehiyon. Pero ang layunin dito sa suri-suri is to let students hear the different languages. Kasi alam din natin, napakalakas ang bias natin pag nakarinig ng ibang wika, no? Lalo pa sa mga Tagalog at sa Kapampangan. And I appreciated it in the films that were being shown, no? Na hindi dinub, kundi nag-preserve nga ng mga wika dito. No? Can we move to Bicol? So, would you share? Naku, dito, I don't know what to ask Tito at this point. Do you want to just jump in and
sundan ko na lang.
May Bicol cinema na rin ba? Na
meron, may Bicol cinema actually. Actually, matagal na ang Bicol sa Tagalog cinema, yung tinatawag natin na national cinema. Pero katulad ng ibang ethno-linguistic communities, napaglalaruan ang Bicol may nasulat akong paper tungkol kay Eddie Garcia, yung kanyang Manoy, di ba? Yung Manoy niya na nagmumura, expletives in Bicol, no? Tapos pag nanonood ako ng sine na tumatawa yung mga tao, palagi kong sinasabi na, ay, maraming Bicolanong nanonood. Pero it's possible din na natuto na kay Eddie Garcia mga nanonood sa kanya mga pagmumura na ano. And then, bulgar talagang ginagamit niyang lingwahe na so ang daming anti-woman, may ganyang machismo, etc. Pero sa Bicol, yun nga, iniisip natin na ang lapit-lapit ng Bicol sa nasa Southern Luzon, no? Pero nung umusbong na yung pelikula, we realized na yung mga towns na malapit sa Quezon, Tagalog na pala sila. Barangay del Gallego, no? Tapos nawala yung notion na standard Bicol, kini-question na yun Ng 1960s, 1970s, palaging sinasabing standard Bicol nasa Naga. Hindi na kasi ang dami-dami naglubas na lingwahe. Pagtawid mo ng dagat, Masbate is Bicol, pero ang lapit-lapit sa Kinaray, saka sa Hiligaynon, ang language. I speak Masbateño, Tigawnon. Ibang-iba sa Bicol, na sa mainland. No? Punta mo sa Catanduanes, iba naman. So, sa cinema, nabubuhay ito Nabubuhay. At palagi kong sinasabi na biglang naging mahalaga ang lingwahe. Hindi yung film language, kasi iba yun Yung lingwahe, yung lumalabas sa bibig ng mga karakter, naging importante sa kritisismo. Yung sinabi kanina ni Keith na nuances, no? Na pag nag-judge kami ng mga pelikula, natatawa yung iba, yung marunong na Bisaya, no? Pero yung iba na walang alam sa Bisaya, they won't find the film funny at all. So, iisipin mo na, paano kaya ito nangyayari sa mga film concourse, yung competition, na nasa Manila, at karamihan ay Manila-based na mga critics. No? So yun, ang problema ng regional cinema. No? Maganda sa documentary, kasi sa documentary, kailangan ang lugar talaga, no, specific doon sa issue. Sa pelikula kasi, napapalit pa yun. Ang setting Basilan sa script, pero ang shooting ginawa sa Taytay Rizal. Ganun nga. Pero sa documentary, you cannot do that. Kasi sinasabi ko palagi na ang ganda nitong daang docu, kasi nabuhay yung lugar, ang pagkakaiba-iba ng lugar. Hindi mo pwedeng ipeki ang lugar sa documentary na sabihin mo na nangyari ito sa Samar pero gawin natin sa Cubao ang shooting, no? Mga ganyan. Na ginagawa sa feature films. No?
Okay. Lugar.
At lingwahe.
Oo. Okay. Nabanggit mo rin kanina about all this thing about standard Bicol and all. But masasabi mo ba like sa Bicol cinema na nako-cross ba ang, kasi may assertion din ng mga ibang linguists that so-called Bicolano is not one language, di ba?
Not one language.
Differences, no?
Ilagay ko mic doon sa mga paggawa ng libro. Na problema ang Bicol kasi ang gumawa ng mga libro ata sa Manila, mga taga-Albay. And there's a big difference sa particles. No? For example, yung and, asin sa Camarines or buda sa Albay. Now, sa adult population, madali yon kasi natuto na kami sa iba't ibang mga salita sa Bicol. Pero yung grade 1 or grade 2, maliligaw. Maliligaw talaga. So I don't call it a problem. No, I find it an interesting thing. Na sa Bicol mismo, you have to contend with languages. For example, nung may ginawa atang pelikula na sa Catanduanes, ang mga taga-Camarines were saying na bakit iba ang Bicol nila? Then people would insist na since cinema yan, dapat gawin nating standard ang lengguwahe. And of course, the other areas would protest. Sorsogon, malapit na sa Samar, Masbate is really hindi na Bicol ang salita. No? May isang island sa Bicol na Burias, ang nakaharap sa Camarines Sur is Bicol, ang nasa likod Cebuano, ang sa dulo na nasa malapit sa Quezon Province, Tagalog, no? So yung mga ganun, how do you imagine Bicol? Pero para sa akin hindi problema. That makes it even more interesting. Yung sinabi mo kanina na celebrate the diversity, lalabas sa cinema at lalabas sa documentary.
And Bicol will probably be particularly illustrative of that.
The kind. Kaya nga nung gumagawa kami ng bago film festival, sabi namin, bakit palaging Bicol Film Festival? And we thought of using the word South Road. Kasi yung nagkukonect lahat ng Bicol hanggang Manila was always called a South Road. Sa bus. Kasi ang sa train, iba naman ang sa train. So paglampas mo, Tagalog na, paglampas mo ng Quezon, Laguna, so anong pagkakaiba ng pelikula nito mga sa boundaries na to? Can we put them together? Would make it exciting na kasi ang porous naman ang boundaries Gumagalaw ang mga tao. To a point na sabi ng ibang filmmakers, tawid tayo hanggang Samar, dagat lang yan So hindi sa Pagitan. So hindi na kami interesado dun sa film festival na Region 1, Region 2, Region 3. Wala, it doesn't make sense para sa akin. Para sa Bicolano, I don't know with the other areas.
Yeah. Well, they're bureaucratic creations.
Correct.
Okay. Teddy, pwede mag-pick up ng strand dito na from Tito na
Yes. Sige. So itong regional cinema, dapat may konting history muna tayo no? Kasi nung nag-umpisa ang Philippine cinema, it was actually not even Tagalog, it was Spanish. No? Spanish ang lengguwaheng ginamit, no? Pati yung si Jose Nepomuceno yon, no? Tapos siya yung unang Filipino filmmaker. Tapos noong 1912, bago may mga Amerikano nang nakagawa ng Filipino film. Shot in the Philippines, Filipino subjects, Filipino actors. Pero hindi sila Pilipino, no? Mga American producers sila na nakatira dito sa Pilipinas. No? Pero nakapag-asawa rin sila ng mga native women. Ang Filipino cinema ay naging Tagalog, no? Sometime starting in the 20s, especially in the 30s, no? At nagsabay din ito sa yung paghanap ng national language. No? Ito yung panahon ni Quezon, naghahanap pa sila ng national language at nakuro-kuro yung mga ibang tagapagsalita ng iba-ibang salita, tapos mga congressmen, mga senador, at pinili nila yung Tagalog na maging basis in the formation of a national language. No? At the same time, Philippine cinema was slowly growing, no? Especially in the 30s. No? Nag-umpisa yung studio system in the 30s, no? Especially 1932, 33, no? With the establishment of Parlatone Hispano, Filipino, and Philippine films. And somehow, naging Tagalog yung yung lengguwahe ng Filipino cinema. Kasi karamihan ng mga nagtrabaho dyan ay mga taga Luzon at Tagalog speaking no? Okay, and then tapos yung hindi naman pasadya yata no, ay kasi last year we had a conference no, and some people spoke about this. There was no attempt to really impose Tagalog, but it so happened nakatulong ng malaki ang Filipino movies in the 30s in tandem with Filipino literature, no, Tagalog literature, naging parang naging ito yung lingua franca, no, ng Philippine cinema. At yung natabunan yung ibang lengguwahe. Part of this is of course the policy that was imposed by the Institute of National Language, no, that Tagalog should become the basis of a national language, no. Ang problema hindi kasi nasundan, no. So after several decades, here we are, and I think for example the people from the Visayas are complaining bakit Tagalog ang naging national language. But of course, I'm talking from the point of view of cinema. Malaki yung naging influence ng cinema, no? Because it became Tagalog. Even 10 years ago, no, I met a filmmaker in Davao na nagsabi nagulat siya, pwede pala kaming gumawa ng pelikula in Bisaya, in Cebuano, no? Or in your own language. I said, pwede naman bakit hindi? Kasi ang sabi niya kasi, akala ko kasi kailangan pag gumawa ka ng pelikula, kailangan in Tagalog. No, dahil yan ang mga napapanood nila sa sinehan.
Right.
No? So hindi, sabi ko, you can use your own language. Hindi lang kasi tayo sanay na manood ng pelikula sa iba't ibang lengguwahe, no? At yan ang kwento ng Pilipinas, no? We have so many languages, we have so many cultures, and the regional cinema is actually the best platform to highlight this diversity, no, and this of so many cultures and languages, and a way for each of us to understand each other, no. I remember, for example, an old Charito Solis film from 1955, no. Pag may eksena dyan, it's a road movie, umakyat sila ng Ilocos, no, tapos may kausap siyang Ilocano, no, na nung nagsalita yung Ilocano in his own language, na may puntong Ilocano syempre, parang for comic effect. No? And this happens a lot also, especially with Visayan speakers as depicted in old Filipino movies. No? Whenever there's a Visayan speaker who speaks up, parang pinagtatawanan siya. Because it's used for comic effect. And I think also afterwards I've met some Visayan filmmakers and they resented that, no? They resented that. So nag-iiba na yung filmmaking ngayon, no? Because nagiging represented na yung iba't ibang regions at mga kultura nila through film.
And it's, I guess, hindi lang the representation is yung tao na nga mismo, as you said na in Tagalog films, it almost becomes a parody, no, when you use another language. Pero dito, ang ganda ng labas ng paggamit ng Cebuano, kung ano pang mga wika na ginamit dito sa docu. No? So the documentary, I think, is a very powerful medium for that kind of assertion. No? And maybe it doesn't matter anymore if it's an insider or outsider because the voices are there. So, sayang wala sina Mark Lester Valle and Carla Pulido Campo ng Walang Rape sa Bontok, no? It would have been nice.
Ang ganda nun.
Na mga taga-Cordillera, no? Ako ay advocate bilang isang anthropologist nga sa mga indigenous communities natin at sana it won't be that long before we start to see indigenous communities producing their own films as well. Their own voices will come out. And I also wish that Grace Simbulan could have been with us. A is for Agustin. It was such a heartwarming film. No? Also very heartbreaking in its own ways. No? But that's an example too na sana nga nakakamulat din ang films without being overtly political na propagandish. No? Yung sitwasyon ni Agustin, because it turns out they're agta nga. No? And the ending, again, sorry, spoiler ito sa mga audiences natin. No? He had to stop studying so that his son could continue. Tapos nagtrabaho na lang daw siya as construction worker. And what was he building? A school. The counterpoint was just so only in a documentary nga. No? Kaya papasalamat tayo sa daang docu nga. No? Lahat kayo ay nakasalita na eh. If anyone wants to just jump in here and talk a bit more about what is this leading to? I mean, we talk about national cinema, but do we really want national cinema as in ano? Do we want it monolithic na ano?
Ayoko Mike ayoko ng national cinema. Kasi kung magkakaroon ng national cinema, may pagpatuloy ang dominance ng isang lengguwahe uli. And it's the Tagalog language, the Tagalog movies, no? Na tama nga, for a long time, kasi hindi lang na taga Manila ang gumagawa ng pelikula, kaya't naging Tagalog siya. You know, it's not that. Ang imahinasyon mismo naging sentro sa Manila. So ang taga Manila imagines the Ilocano, imagines the Samareño, imagines the Mindanao, no? And hindi neutral ang language eh. Kaya nga yung sabi nilang nakakatawa ang Bisaya, nakakatawa lang sa konteksto ng Tagalog speaker. Yung matigas na E, for example, pag nasa Cebu ka na o nasa Masbate, it's not funny, no? When people say, ang ganda-ganda ng Lunita, no one laughs. Only Tagalog would laugh at that. At middle class pataas, no? So yung ganung pananaw napakahalaga na pabayaan ang mga regions talaga, no? Pabayaan mo sila because nagsisimula pa lang. And it's very, very tempting. Ang tagal-tagal ko sa cinema committee ng NCCA. It's very, very tempting na kayo na nasa opisina, pakikialaman ang nasa regions, no? Because you always have this feeling na ito dapat ang direksyon. Wala, hindi natin alam eh. Nung madalas na ako sa Naga, na I've been in contact with filmmakers, may established, may maliliit. Iba ang kanilang iniisip, no? And I stop myself from saying na ito dapat ang gawin, ito dapat ang topic, ito dapat ang ganyan. No? Ang agta na lang eh. Ang agta is really never depicted. Kukulayan ang mga artista, mga ganyan na even yung mga rituals na ang pananaw palagi para siyang exotic, touristic na mga pagsasalarawan. Walang katapusang Mayon volcano, kunyari, no? Walang katapusang sili. Pagod na mga Bicolano niyan eh. Ang Bicolano will look for other things, no? It could be class conflict kasi malakas na malakas yan. It could be the church na very dominant sa region. Tama na muna yung mga ano. Katulad din ng Mindanao, siguro tigil-tigilan yung mga singkil, mga ganyan. Na. And that's always the central perspective.
But now that you mentioned it's not just Tagalog films putting down Cebuano na. Bigla akong naisip din na even with yung Tagalog films, mahilig din, lalo pa sa mga LGBT films, na mahilig mag-setting sa Laguna, sa mga pansin mo rin. And there's a certain representation also of Southern Tagalog.
Correct.
That is sometimes demeaning as well. No? And everything's exoticized, no? including the bodies nga. No? So it's something else. There's an othering pa rin na nangyayari. No?
That's true.
And so, maasa ako sa Mindanao eh. Maybe we can go back to Mindanao because I sense that because all the groups, there's so many different groups working there na baka sa cinema din, and we're seeing it in Bagane's film nga sa North Cotabato. No? I wonder either Bagane or si Jay can jump in here because Davao is also a melting pot. No? I don't like the term, but we use it loosely right now na sa tingin ba ninyo, does it go beyond Bisaya? Na ano, are we talking about Mindanao film? Will Mindanao mean something else different? No? Just as there's a lot of talk now about Bangsamoro. No? Moro is going to change, no? The meaning of a Moro. Can we hear Jay or Bagane? Do you want to take a stab here with the... Is there Mindanao cinema? Sige, Jay.
Yeah, I think in the context or in the discussion of regional cinema, lumalabas talaga yung Mindanao cinema as a kind of distinct example of a regional cinema. Kasi yun nga, it goes beyond the sense of place, language, but also in portraying the kind of milieu that Mindanao is at or is experiencing, no? So makikita mo sa mga films, fiction or feature length films, there's this consciousness or sensibility that the region experiences what the other, kasi contiguous yung Mindanao, unlike Visayas na separated into different islands, no? So if you have filmmakers like sina Bagane, Arnel Mardocchio, si Sherad, when they were when Arnel used to still live in Davao. I mean, even if they anymore residing in Davao, the Mindanao story or the Mindanao consciousness or sensibility still figures in the narratives of their films. So, parating nandoon kasi dala-dala nila yung kind of sensibility or consciousness ng Mindanao, no? So, sa mga films, I think iko-connect ko siya sa sinabi ni Sir Tito na it goes beyond the display, the overt display of yung culture fetishization or exoticization, kasi mas mas meditative, mas more contemplative, mas more exploring the themes, no? Hindi siya yung ma-observe. I don't want to name names, but there are films that obviously from the vantage point of the outsider, because it's always, the focus is always yung cultural display, the dances, what have you. But sa mga Mindanao films, there's this conscious interrogation of the milieu, of the situation, and makikita mo nga sa mga films na they tackle the lumad issue, they tackle the political instability and the restlessness of the region. So, andun yung lahat sa consciousness ng Mindanao cinema.
Nice.
Bagane, do you want to add anything here? No?
I agree with Jay, no, na Mindanao cinema is distinct compared to other films from other regions. But even as Mindanaoan filmmakers, it's hard for us to identify our film as Mindanao film. Hirap yan eh. Like Cotabato yung subject ko, I can't say na Mindanao film siya kasi hindi naman siya pwede mag-represent ng Zamboanga, hindi naman siya pwede mag-represent ng Davao. So it's Mindanao is distinct, at the same time it's different, and I would I agree also with Sir Tito na there is a problem if we identify as a national cinema, kasi yung ang effect niyan ng national cinema is magkakaroon ng, well, for me as a filmmaker, if we depend on what the NCR or the Manila industry is the labels of the industry of film cinema, then medyo disconnect kami sa reality namin on the ground. For example, yung mga grants, meron na silang parang naka-tailor na, parang meron na silang design for what region is. So kami naman, filmmakers, since what we really need is the support, especially the financial support, and then yung mga grants for Manila is parang starting point namin yan. But then the problem comes in when we tailor fit our film to what the grant giving body is asking for. So from there pa lang magkaka-problema na yung namin. Well, for a filmmaker's point of view,
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Always a dilemma too. No, it hit us with so-called world music. No, who defines world music? It's still the taste of the taste of the first world. Nga, no? A very interesting question just came in, no, and I think we matutuhog natin sa mga lumalabas na issues dito. No? And I'm glad it comes from a high school teacher, si Eileen Paraga. No? What do you think would be the position of regional cinema in the post-COVID world? Do you think dialects would still actually languages would still dictate the level of audience appreciation of regional cinema? Do you think the pandemic itself will dictate the direction? Maybe. Sige, Teddy. And Teddy, do go ahead. I'm going to have to get something, but I'll be right back. Pero, please start.
All right. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Actually, this pandemic has been, I think, very, very positive for regional cinema. Because in a way, it has leveled the playing field. Because so many regional festivals now, and there are so many platforms now that they are playing on various sites, like Vimeo, YouTube, Facebook, and people now have access to these films, whereas before they had to be shown only in selected festivals, either in Manila or in the regional film festivals, and you have to attend those festivals in person in order to catch these films. So now, since, for example, the North Luzon Film Guild, since March, they've been showing films online, and they're not focused only on film from the region, but from the entire Philippines. They've been doing webinars with filmmakers from all over, from Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, and even from the NCR region. And they've already done something like 130 episodes. And then, of course, just recently we had the Binisaya Film Festival, ni Keith Deligro and Pelicultura of Calabarzon, both celebrating their 10th anniversaries and streaming their films online, with various talks, webinars, and film showings. So maybe there's, in terms of numbers, hindi pa naman siya kasing lakas ng mga big studios, and mainstream films, Like I know Regal Films has a site on YouTube, and then ABS-CBN and Cinema One Originals has a site now, You can access their films for free on YouTube. But just at the click of a button, you can already access these films. Na dati hindi ganun kadali. So this pandemic, I think, has opened the eyes, has opened a platform for regional cinema, and I think maybe not that many, but slowly people will be curious about this. They will want to access these films. They want to find out what the film from Davao would look like, from Cebu, from Baguio would look like, and now they are all showing online,
And they alerting our organizers, Nakara, Jewel, and Bianca, na maybe that's a thought. Will we have streaming services all throughout the year rather than just this particular month? Oh, it might be something. But I'm not sure if this answers your question, Eileen. Pero I mean that certainly is one aspect. But I'm also wondering, are any of our filmmakers, because of COVID-19, pumasok ba sa isip ninyo na you might want to do a docu around using COVID as a theme? Anyone? I mean, anyone, not just filmmakers, of course, our film critics. Because ang pumapasok sa isip ko yung the way this was managed, yung mga lockdowns have really separated people and communities.
Correct.
They pitted communities against each other. So parang may countercurrent dito, and I don't know if films will be able to capture what's happening and try to bring people together. Nagiging suspicious, suspicious of each other. We've been trying to get laptops to our students in Visayas and Mindanao There are some areas na 3 linggo na ayaw nilang tanggapin ang laptops. They will not allow the laptops in. That's how bad it is right now.
I don't know, Mike. Hello.
Yeah.
Kung makakasagot ito, I've been getting feedback. I cannot name the competition. No? May isang competition na nangyayari ngayon na hindi magawa ang pelikula kasi ang filmmaker nasa Manila, nasa isang lugar. Pero yung kanyang script pala nasa isang probinsya at hindi siya pinapasok doon.
Okay.
So, may advantage yung mga filmmakers na nasa lugar na nila under lockdown, hindi pwedeng pumasok yung iba kasi may mga boundaries. No? Sa Bicol lang, I realize mga resorts nagsara. And there are towns na parang naiba yung pananaw nyo. Kasi noon, pag may taga Manila, parang you welcome the Manileño. Not in Bicol, no? They're blocked sa northern part. Hindi sila makapasok. Because sa Bicolano, I don't know with the other regions, sa Bicolano, pag galing ka sa Manila, baka ka-infected.
It's all over.
Ang interest ko lang, which I think you raised also, Mike, sino kaya gumagawa nga talaga, nagre-record nung mga pangyayari nitong lockdown?
Napakahalaga, oo.
Na sabi ko nga sa kanila, I wrote it about it in my column na yung mga yung idea lang na ang isang maliit na syudad ng Naga na may mga barricades, may kumuha ba ng mga photographs na gano'n? May kumuha ba ng photographs ng mga pumipila pa ang tao sa mask? Have you ever gone to a mall now na lahat may shield sa mukha? Nagulat ako nung makapunta ako sa isang local mall dito na para bang taken for granted natin. We look really funny na may mask, may shield. Hindi na ito ang mundo ng generation ko when I saw that. Nakukuha ba ito ng mga filmmakers? Interesado ba sila dito? No? Okay.
At lapit ng undas, may undas ba na hindi pupunta sa cemetery?
Sarado.
Oo.
Ang cemetery.
And there's so much need for closure around people who lost their loved ones during the pandemic.
That's true.
Bagane, were you raising your hand?
I think I need to answer that. We were not able to shoot. For me personally, nawalan ako ng spirit to create a film. Parang I questioned the importance of cinema na ang health is the main priority. But the pandemic, the lockdown made us realize a lot of things. Kami ni Kit is one of the part of yung grantee ng NCCA to make films about COVID. So it is our chance to make a film about our experience during the lockdown. But what I made was a narrative film and our own process of filmmaking in the regions, in contrast to what the film industry has implemented the protocols, the health protocols in making films. Kasi for us, the region, we don't have a set. If we shoot a bahay kubo, we go to the area, we go to the barangay. And we can go to the barangay wearing a PPE or spray the ground with
disinfectant.
If we do films in our regions, we do it on our own. Balik kami yung kumbaga kami yung filmmaker Marami akong naririnig sa mga festivals or sa mga film activities na cultivating, nurture, planting, ano pa yan. But kami sa regions, kami yung we're on our ground. So alam namin yung kung ano yung nangyayari. And we ourselves would go to the barangay health center and to the barangay kapitan, and yun ang hindi nakikita ng NCR na wala kaming industry but we have a community. Our filmmakers, and we connect to the people talaga if we shoot a film. We shoot a real family, hindi sila, well, because we believe na lahat naman tayo artista. Well, for us region kasi wala kaming artista talaga dito, so we do talaga ng mga ganun. So I think it's a challenge for us regional filmmakers na we can separate ourselves. Wala ng national cinema, wala ng Mindanao cinema, but let's make it our own cinema, kung ano yung reality natin na we don't need yung ano yung totoo talaga na experience talaga natin na it might be sounds ano sa iba different, but at least sa atin. And we also have this platform online na pwede na nating i-show yung film natin, di ba? We can show our film around the world. It's either audience from all over the world or kayo lang or tayo lang makapapanood. So it's a challenge for us also.
Okay. Kay, pinanggit ka ni Bagane.
Buti pa si Bagane nakapag-shoot niya. Ako hindi pa.
Hindi pa.
Ayun.
Na-strand ka ba sa sa Tikling?
Hindi naman, dito na din ako nakatira.
Yeah. Oo.
Ayun, so ano bang ko feeling ko parang kahit hindi intentionally parang maapektuhan ng actually naapektuhan na pati hindi lang yung production ng pelikula, pati yung distribution. Sabi nga ni Sir Teddy kanina, nagiging equal yung playing field, no? And I think matagal-tagal pa to. And kung matagal-tagal pa to at kailangan nating maging safe sa pag-produce, and I think malaking din siya, malaking unintentional na influence niya sa kung ano man yung lalabas na mga pelikula na are being made or to be made in the future siguro. So ayun ang sa akin sa pandemic.
I don't know.
Jay,
Oo. Jay, nag-ano ka?
Siguro share ko lang din briefly, hindi siya it's not about me making a film, but actually related din siya in the context of COVID, no. And I think dito nagre-reflect yung organically collaborative nature ng regional filmmakers, kasi during the pandemic, or siguro 3 months ago, there was this issue on the Joint Administrative Order for film and audiovisual productions, which actually naging concern siya for regional filmmakers, kasi yung mga procedures or yung memorandum actually is more applicable for filmmakers na sa mainstream, no, sa industry, and it doesn't reflect the realities of the region. So yun, parang in a way sa online na lang nagband together ang regional filmmakers to create this regional filmmakers network, directly addressing or responding yung sa Joint Administrative Order on audiovisual productions. And dito sa Mindanao, we did parang a small study or survey of regional filmmakers on the effect naman of COVID sa kanila. So yun nga, hati siya. Some of them would want to opt to do something different, while the others, the half of the respondents naman would like to pursue filmmaking. So nakita din yung gaano talaga naapektuhan yung artists or filmmakers sa region.
If I can just advance a view here, na this whole DAANG docu it has been very comforting for me, and in the context of COVID-19, kasi I found I was beginning to watch too many zombie movies on Netflix and it wraps itself around your head, di ba? Kasi yung the feeling of the apocalypse together with COVID is not the healthiest thing to do. Kaya ang ganda na pumasok na ang DAANG docu. The films are not always joyful films, but they are very real films, no? And it's not zombie films nga.
Correct.
Do zombie films, no? Pero ang dami pa ring nangyayari na, I was just thinking of poor Ray na Sinyo, yung nanay na, no? It was so surreal, no? Yung kanyang funeral, 43 security agents na armado, ayaw siyang bitawan, naka-PPE and all, no? I mean, it was almost cinematic. It was awful. I mean, cinematic at its worst na. No? Pumapasok na tayo actually sa mga tanong ng mga tagakinig nga. No? And there are 2 related questions in here from Gio na nagtatanong na, we enjoy the colors of Zamboanga through the eyes of Brillante Mendoza. And there are 2 related questions in here from Gio na nagtatanong na we enjoy the colors of Zamboanga through the eyes of Brillante Mendoza. And there are 2 related questions in here from Gio na nagtatanong na we enjoy the colors of Zamboanga through the eyes of Brillante Mendoza. but how authentic is it? And it's similar here to Rene Burgos from San Francisco, also asking, oh, I'm sorry, medyo ibas kay Rene, I'll save him first. Si Celine from Saint Scholastica na how do we go beyond the overt displays of culture and appreciate it as it is? How do we know what is authentic or not? So both refer to authenticity. No? At malaking issue ngayon. More or less, sinagot din ninyo kanina about Mayon Volcano, nakakasuka na no? But maybe we can expand it as well. When I thought about world music being shaped by the taste of the West, of the first world, we see that also in their so-called appreciation of world cinema. We know that they look for poverty porn, they look for, so that's realistic and yet not realistic as well. And that's where I appreciate the docus that have been produced by the panel members ngayon. But do you want to take up that issue of authenticity as well? Any volunteers?
Gusto ko sana marinig ang sa Mindanao kasi paborito ko. Sinusulat ko sila palagi na tama yung sabi ni Jay. Pag indie filmmaker ang gumagawa at taga Mindanao, kung saan na party doon, sabi ko, ito ang Mindanao na hindi natin nakikilala. Because ang nakikilala natin na Mindanao is the textbook Mindanao, no? The Morobinta, pag may nakita ka Morobinta, Mindanao na yon. Malay mo na yung Pilipino pala ng mga panahon pa, di ba? Pag may nakasuot ng malong, say, ayan na, Mindanao na yan. Then we see the works of these young filmmakers in si Bagane, for example, yung Baboy Halas, no? Nag-iisip kami, Mindanao ba ito? Tribe sila, the notion of tribe, no? Yung matigsalog, no? And so, nakikita mo na for a long, long time, napig ang Mindanao sa isang imahen lang, no? Monolithic na. Ang dami-dami niya, ang dami-dami pagkakaiba sa loob. In the same with ang Bisaya, ang dami-dami pagkakaiba. Kahit yung mga awit nila, ibang awit ng Samar, ibang Leyte. Pero pag nasa Manila tayo, pare-pareho lang sila, waray. Then I realized, a friend of mine was telling me na ang waray is not a good word to use to summarize yung lugar na yun ng Samar at Leyte. So yung mga ganon, and I think the books can do that, pero ang cinema kasi being popular in so many ways na tao ang kasali, or being very popular, yung maraming nanonood, is a very good medium for understanding this.
And it allowed, and it allowed people to tell their stories. I'm thinking out for Agustin nga, no? At isang napakagandang eksena din dito na kumuha siya ng gitara tapos sabi niya paano siyang magtutugtog at 3 lang ang strings, no? And yet nagtugtog siya, no? And then they showed him Christmas caroling. So isa pa yan. Do we want to question the authenticity? Of course, it was authentic. That was him, the documentary captured that moment na, no? And that is what we need for our imagination. Kaya nagpapasalamat ulit tayo sa ng mga filmmakers natin. Hindi pa ending, ha? Pwede ko ba lang wait, I'm sorry, Rene Burgos from San Francisco. I'm a fan of regional cinema, especially Hiligaynon. And we had one Hiligaynon film, no? And Cebuano Stories, but it is still considered obscured, highly independent, almost a backyard industry. Naku, parang backyard piggery, no? Why is it big? Pero na kanina si Bagane na, was it Bagane who said or is it you, no? Na it's not an industry, it's a community, no? But back to Rene, what is the main problem and what are the solutions to pump up diversity of Filipino films? Medyo self-evident naman, but can we hear from the filmmakers again? Anong kailangan dito para ma-pump up the diversity of Filipino films?
Ako, pwede ba ako dyan? Hello. Ayun, speaking of diversity, actually medyo paulit-ulit na ako dito sa sinasabi kong ito, pero ulitin ko pa rin. Currently, nasa situation na tayo na very diverse na, no? Diverse na ang cinema. No? I think what needs to be diversified, I think, is maybe the business of the business of cinema. No, kasi parang malaki pa rin siyang influence sa pananaw ng mga nanonood ng cinema. Tulad ng mga yun nga, yung mga understanding based siguro sa mga tanong, mga ganon. May certain standards ba na nabubuo, conscious man yan or hindi, pero may ganon eh. Feeling ko para ma-push pa talaga ang pagka-diverse nito. Feeling ko kasi ang established and institutionalized na business of making cinema ay parang kahit din ako kung ako ang nandun, parang masakit din sa akin na parang tanggapin na diverse na pala ang cinema. Parang paano yung business ko, ma-diversifies din ba ang kikitain ko? So feeling ko para ma-push pa ito more, no? Feeling ko ang mga filmmakers dapat ay pumasok sa siguro sa actually hindi naman kailangan, you don't even have to be a filmmaker to make a film, but in order to push it forward, I think filmmakers also need to consider being their own negosyante siguro ganun. Parang lagi kong sinasabi na ang pangarap ko na future sa Philippine cinema ay self-distribution, something na hindi siya centralized, parang individuals lahat, and magsi-share tayo, yung mga communities natin magsi-share ng mga pelikula natin. And sa ganitong paraan, dito lalabas yung mga dito natin ma-avail ang mga tinatawag natin na authentic and yung mga stories from home, wherever that home is, all over the Philippines, no? So I think ayun, and especially ngayon sa pandemic na nabanggit na pag-usapan natin na yun nga, na equalize yung playing field. I think it is an opportunity for paano ba, yung filmmakers na gumagawa ng films for the love of making films, to distribute their films, to let people know that they are making films through the internet or whatever it takes, and you don't have to make or ask permission to make a film or even show your films to everyone. Parang lahat ng opportunities ay nag-i-exist na. I think yun yung siguro next step na sana i-consider ng mga filmmakers, lalo na yung mga nasa probinsya or sa regions, na para ma-push pa ang more diversity. And most probably baka magiging sustainable na din ito para sa kanila. Marami nang lumilingon to the left and right to explore this cinema from all over the Philippines. Lalo na ngayon. Yun lang ang sa aking diversity things.
And since the question came from Rene in San Francisco, so hindi lang all over the Philippines, given na Filipino is all over the world today.
All over the world,
Yeah. Okay, there's Ian from Iligan. Even if we're an archipelago, the pandemic has blurred boundaries given our access to the World Wide Web. Nabanggit na yan kanina. No? Si Howie pala ay nanonood ngayon. We need to recognize recent films. Howie Severino. No? Recent films in regional languages like Cloning done in Cuyonen, no? By native-speaking director Dante Garcia. Precisely nga, we hope that there will be more films of that type. Why does this other guy keep coming up? Question, what can you say about the Mindanao 2019 film directed by Brillante? Mindanaoans?
Jay.
Jay.
I hope to never be asked of that question. But paano ba? It's a very touchy subject because I also know some of the filmmakers behind, the crew or staff behind the film. But I think it was already na-discuss na din siya publicly sa mga platforms, social media platforms. Writers have been writing about it, particularly questioning the authenticity, the overt displays of culture, and from which vantage point are we seeing Mindanao? Siguro ang masasabi ko lang talaga, it's a missed opportunity. The film is a missed opportunity to portray Mindanao in the threshold of a change, no? Kasi when Mindanao came out, parang it disregarded the fact that we are already transitioning into this kind of the Bangsamoro, for example. The Bangsamoro ARM before is transitioning into a new Bangsamoro government. Um, there are prospects for peace and a new government. So I think yun lang by constantly picturing Mindanao as a war-torn area, it missed an opportunity to know look at Mindanao as something na undergoing this change na hopefully positive in terms of yung political stability ng region. So yun lang ang masasabi ko.
Yeah, may I say something? Because there's been a long history of Mindanao as depicted in Philippine films, no? All the way back to before the war. And Mindanao has always been exoticized. Before, it was, of course, it's Muslim, and then there was a film called Moro Pirates, in which there were several early films depicted Mindanaoans as pirates, no? Because this was the image of Mindanao during that time. And maybe I think in Brillante's film, it sort of continues along this line. No, we're already in the 21st century, but it still exoticizes the culture of Mindanao, the people of Mindanao, and this is where I think regional cinema is going to come in, should come in, and the local and native filmmakers should make their own stories, about their own culture, and this is actually a golden opportunity for the regional filmmakers to correct the wrongs of film history. Of course, Mindanao has one advantage. No? It had a big budget, no, which was granted by its producers. I think a sector of the Philippine government. But for the regional filmmakers, I think your answer to you should put an answer to this film and start making your own versions of Mindanao.
Hello, can I say?
Yeah, Bagane wants to say something.
Yeah, Bagane, I'm back.
Well, for me, Mindanao film by Brillante is a commercial film. The problem with commercial film is mas marami ang nanonood ng commercial film. And this is the problem na iiwan yung kahit ang effort ng mga filmmakers from the region when a commercial film is presented na invalidate yung mga filmmakers from the region. Even if I say na kahit kami from the Mindanao, it's hard for us to identify our film as Mindanao. But yun nga, if only imagine giving us a budget to make a film. My first full-length film, I spent only more or less 100,000 pesos. So imagine if the funding from the commercial film made to make a film about Mindanao is given to the Mindanao filmmakers. Imagine what kind of film can we create. And yun din ang problem yun din ulitin ko lang na what we really need is funding talaga. Kasi kahit gaano kaganda ng film namin pero hindi siya recognized by the film industry or the commercial wala pa rin, walang mangyayari sa kahit sinong Mindanao filmmakers na gagawa kung hanggang kami lang din yung nanonood ng film namin, hindi makakaabot sa mga regular viewers. Yun pa rin ang magiging Mindanao films.
Okay. But we know, of course, funding comes with strings attached.
Correct.
So, unless, of course, NCCA can be neutral and in the end, it's still government and that you don't end up becoming a propaganda arm for the government, right? It's actually 9:20. Ang bilis ng oras ng anan. according to our schedule, it's already time for closing statements.
Okay.
I know there's so much yet to discuss. No? So let's ask you in the order that you appeared kanina, no? When you came in. No? So umpisahan natin kay, I think Tito was the first. No, si Teddy. Mukhang by age, ano? Teddy, do you want to?
By age, dapat mauna si Tito.
Okay.
Mukha lang akong bata.
Oo.
Mukha lang kasi akong bata, kaya napagkakamalan na si Teddy ang ano.
Okay.
Hindi ako nagtitinay.
But go ahead na, Teddy. Ikaw una dito ka.
Ikaw na. Archivist ka, luma ang inaalagaan ng archive, di ba?
Sige na, Teddy.
Yes. Okay.
Closing.
Okay. It's great that we have this this panel. No, I learned so many things also from our fellow panelists, and the first 90 years of Philippine cinema was ruled by a monolithic film industry. No? And then I think in the past 18 to 20 years, it has become very diversified. And because I think one big factor is not, the independent film scene and also the regional filmmaking scene, which was made possible because of the emergence of digital technology, that sort of not really equalized, but I think it democratized filmmaking. Anybody can make a film now, even with your cell phones, and then you can distribute it through the internet. Of course, we still have to find the proper business model, the proper template for in order for the regional filmmakers to flourish, without having them to sell their soul commercially and become part of the mainstream industry. So Philippine cinema, I think, has been decentralized. I would say, I was reading a book called The Starfish and the Spider. The spider has a head. If you cut off its head, mamamatay na yan, no? So this is what the Philippine film industry, Philippine cinema used to be. It was very centralized. It was monolithic. And the starfish, if you cut off one arm, it will grow another. I think this is what the regional cinema is right now, because it's flourishing in different parts of the country. You wouldn't believe it. There are now 25 active regional film festivals. We haven't heard of all of them because they've not been properly promoted, but there are, from all the way from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. They're all over now, and many of them are now using the online platforms. So Philippine cinema used to be vertical. You had to go to the National Capital Region to make films. Films were bulky. The equipment was bulky. Films were expensive. You had to have your film processed. So Philippine cinema used to be vertical. Now it is horizontal because it has spread all over.
Thank you, Teddy. So we have become Roro. We can go from island to island now. Okay, Tito.
Okay. Maraming salamat dito sa ating forum. At una kong sasabihin na pinagdiwang natin yung centenary ng Philippine cinema, pero parang nakalimutan natin ng documentary as a form. Na-focus tayo sa feature film. At sinulat ko na rin dito, nasabi ko, panalo ang documentary kasi sa documentary, hindi artifice ang nasa core. Truth ang simula ng documentary. Truth as art. Baliktad ang sa feature film. Art as truth. So, hindi pa huli ang lahat. Pwede pa nating simulan ang panunood ng mga documentaries. Ang dami nating pwedeng mapanood. Pero babalikan ko yung idea ng regional cinema. Kapitalista kasi ang show business, hindi natin maalis yun. Yung nangyayari sa Manila at ang control ng Manila sa industriya ay nangyayari din sa Bicol. kung may dominant na center na nagko-cover sa periphery, sa Bicol meron din eh. Camarines Sur and Albay would tend to be dominant, no? Nagsasuffer ang Tagalog area ng Camarines Norte at ang dalawang island provinces together with Sorsogon. Kaya para sa akin, opportunity ito ng mga filmmakers na Bicolano na alisin yung, wag sundin yung model na nangyari sa pag-usbong ng pelikulang Pilipino na galing sa Manila. At hindi lang yan, bilang kritiko, para sa akin, lawakan ang pananaw ng kritiko. Kasi iba ang pelikula na hindi gawa sa Tagalog na lingwahe o sa Pilipino, anong tawag doon. Sa akin kasi I don't call it Filipino, I call it Tagalog. No? At katulad ng mga 70s, ang mga film critics ng 70s, kasi sumikat ang French na film, nag-aral sila ng French. So, anong masama kung kritiko kang Pilipino na mag-aral ka ng at least isa pang lingwahe other than Tagalog or Filipino, Cebuano or isang Mindanaoan language o Bicolano, para mas malaman mo, mapasok mo yung pelikula. Para sa akin, mahalaga yon.
Okay. Salamat, Tito. Keith?
Para sa lahat ng gustong mag-explore ng Philippine cinema, no? Hindi lahat ng cinema ay nasa loob ng sinihan and hindi lahat ay nasa loob ng isang industry, no? Parang kaya as an audience, parang okay din na parang mag-initiate tayo sa sarili natin na mag-explore ba para mahanap itong mga bagay na to kung saan man sila nakatira. Maraming options and yan, all over the Philippines yan. And paano nga ba? And gusto kong i-declare lang na lahat ng mga ito ay worth everything of our hard-earned money, no? So para sa akin, wag na nating hintayin ang industry or ang kung anumang institution na magsabi na ang itong pinag-uusapan nating regional cinema ay maging mainstream. Parang tayo na as an audience, no? Tayo na mismo ang mag-nurture sa cinema na hinahanap natin. And ayun, mas empowering ito as an audience and matutulungan natin yung filmmakers para maging better sa craft nila and mas marami din tayong mapapanood at mas magiging accessible itong mga hindi nagugulat na lang tayo na may ganun pala. So ayun, parang as much as we can, parang hindi lang moral support, financial and moral support siguro for each other. And ayun, sabi nga ni DJ love more, judge less. Ayun.
Wonderful. Galing. Salamat, Keith. No? Sa Mindanao na tayo. Jay?
I think first, for ang message ko is for government agencies na assigned to the development of film or arts or cinema, no, to redirect or refocus their attention to the development of the country's cinema. And kung kino-consider natin na regional cinema is now the national cinema, I think we should invest in programs that are geared towards the development of these filmmakers, to the development of our audiences, no? From siguro ibaling naman natin yung attention natin dito sa loob, no? Rather than sa labas. And so second naman is for regional filmmakers. I think we have come at a point in time na we are also trying to rethink what our notion or beliefs are about regional cinema. And I think it's important to continuously question or interrogate yung filmmaking practices natin. And importante na maging inclusive tayo, no, sa process. And I'd also like to pick up what Keith said a while ago na I think we have to go beyond the diversity and representation because given na yun siya, no? But where do we go from acknowledging diversity and representation? And this should translate into something that is concrete, no? Support for regional filmmakers, support for developing our cinema, our audience. And I end siguro with a wish na sana more filmmakers from the region would try to explore naman the form or the documentary filmmaking as a way of telling their stories from the regions. So yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you, Jay. Bagane, you'll have the final spiel.
I grew up watching commercial films na kahit sa theater or sa VHS, Betamax are dictated by the commercial or by the film industry, the government agencies. I enjoyed watching them, and I'm easily influenced by them. I could say na I became awakened when I realized that there is an independent cinema, independent filmmaking. But then the indie film became commercial, and now there is regional cinema. I acknowledge the film education, the film criticism, the audience development program, anything, the funding for cinema, and the filmmakers, local and filmmakers from the region. Ano yan eh, for me, nurture, nourish, yung mga terms na gano'n is me, I experience farming kasi. So, for me, kami talaga, we know ano yung magandang i-plant na seed sa aming ground. Even when I was young, parang sunflower na we always look up to the sun. Plants look up to the sun. The sun is the Manila, the center. But even sunflower looks down pag wala ng sun. We will sometime in our filmmaking lives, look down. That doesn't mean looking down on us, but looking on our ground. And kung sa palay pa, it could mean a harvest. So thank you sa Daang Docu, kay Dr. Mike, and for being part of the wonderful lineup speakers sa Daang Docu team. Maraming salamat for us, Mindanao. It's very important for us, Mindanao filmmakers, or the filmmakers from the region to speak about who we are.
Thank you, Bagane. Actually, sinagot mo, without knowing it, you were answering some of the last few questions that came in. And there was one very striking one about taga Mindanao siya, pero ang palabas ay Star Cinema, which is not a bad thing, right? I mean, you grew up also with commercial cinema. But you are cutting the strings also. You are looking for your own sun as well. Hindi ko ma-imagine ang Manila as the sun. Wala kaming sun dito. but well placed, no? Unfortunately, we'll have to end, no? So this is the time for thank you, no? Thank you ulit sa mga panelists natin, si Teddy, Tito, Keith, Jay, and Bagane. Thank you also to everyone who tuned in, and it seems to be from throughout the country, no? And recording of this conversation will be available online. Flash handle. Are you going to flash the link? Ayan. Daang Docu. As a watch now, no? So daangdocu.com, watch now. Thank you to the students and educators who tuned in, students from Mapua, Miriam, St. Scholastica, Bulacan State U, Cavite State U, De La Salle Bacolod, De La Salle Dasmariñas, CEU High School, PUP Aficionados Circle, Cinemata of San Carlos University, University of the Philippines, Visayas, and Los Baños, but wala ang Tiliman. No? Thanks to some of our DepEd district schools, Bilira National High School, Davao National High School. Naku, we really have to get to our public high schools. No? You will be their inspiration. No? We would also like to thank the support of Cine Kasimanwa in Western Visayas, Pasal Film Festival in Bicol. Did I pronounce it right? Pasal? Film Festival. Pasale, okay. Film Festival in Bicol, Binisaya Film Festival Cebu, Lutas Negros Oriental Film Festival, Pelicultura, the Calabar Zone Film Festival, Ngilnig Film Festival Davao, Northern Mindanao Film Festival in Cagayan de Oro. I'm sure next year there will be a longer list. No? So don't forget also to catch the films under the section Localities, streaming now until October 29. All documentaries are free of charge, again on daangdocu.com. And this week, is also the premiere of A House in Pieces by Jean Claire D. and Manuel Gomez. I want to thank the organizers again for bringing us all together. It was a great opportunity to talk about very things for the future. No? And in this time of COVID, I think we needed to have some horizon beyond quarantines and all. Maraming salamat sa lahat. I look forward to our next Daang Docu. What do we call this? Is this a film festival? Activity, whatever it will be. And do take the suggestion seriously. Maybe we can have streaming all throughout the year so that we'll watch less of Netflix and HBO. I think that's the greater danger to national cinema than Star. No? Maraming salamat, daghang salamat sa ato.
Mas mabalos.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Sir Mike. Thank you, Daang Docu.
Salamat.
Bye.